Just a test video of sorts. The Modern Mystic. Yay! Yeah, just made a video. See, I'm going to cut this into that kind of, whatever, 16 by 9 by 16 kind of frame, this regular video. Because I'm going to try to post it to this U-doubled thing from my website, which isn't working too well. This is the Fred website. And, yeah, comments work on this video, but they don't show up on any of my videos. So, but maybe the newer videos it'll work. Don't know. Not in Firefox anyway. It does say that right here in the text, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, the problem with uploading videos is you can sort of see it in this little icon of Fred's, where you upload a regular 640 by 480 style video, 4 by 3 format, and it stretches them because it's forcing everything into the letterbox format. So that's got to be fixed. And yeah, it's not just if you give it just a link address to a file like an FLV file, it's not working. And it should. I mean, the player should be able to play an FLV file. So, this is I've used this player before. This whatever it is called. Well, this isn't it. He's using the Vimeo embed. But anyway, so that's a little different. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, the point is it's not working yet. And you can't, I don't see any place to leave response videos here. So that's kind of something that needs to be added and such. So yeah, it's a little short of what it needs to be good for these conversation videos to link them. So at least I'll copy Nick's title anyway. So anyway, let's get to the video. Let's do the video here. Whoops, I hit the like button. That wasn't I intended to hit the play button.
Well, my question is, why do people believe in religion? Now, that's a question that's come 1,000 times, but just to give it a bit more, to help us a bit more, if we can just concentrate on the actual question, why do they think religion? Why do people go for the idea of religion? And
yeah, all right. Yeah, so that's the basic question. So I thought I'd give a basic answer. Because yeah, it is kind of stupid because it really doesn't have anything to do with logic or even the truth. That you can really see what happens to people. I mean, Islam as a religion wouldn't basically exist, if it didn't have its origin. If it didn't have this machine that pumps it out, as propaganda for the world in the Middle East. And you could say the same maybe with Christianity. They all have their sources and they all have a history, and the history is sort of made out of kind of a cheat. They don't earn, like they don't have to face an arena where other ideas are competing with it. It's always people are brought up in the superstition, and superstition is probably a key word. So I mean, the more apt question might be, why are human beings so superstitious? Why do their minds tend to cling to ideas? Tend to do this favoritism thing even, in spite of logic. The cute kitty kind of scenario. Why are we incapable, it seems, or why have humans been incapable, generally speaking, of getting beyond that kind of crap? And so he asked the question in the title, what is religion like? And so he's sort of indicating, it also says it in the video, but I mean so what is it? What else is like this? What else fools us? And so conference report, Fred's video response, I didn't see much use in it, but he did mention sports, and that's to me an example of something that's like it. It's another example of something that humans just get caught up in. It doesn't have any real value or meaning. Your home team or your hometown, all that kind of pride is kind of silly. And somehow religion does mimic that. It has the same kind of components of pride and heritage and tradition. And so it's all caught up in some sort of usness, you know, so you could think of it as a family thing or a race thing or a nationality thing, and people cling to it for those reasons. But it's really an idiotic meme. I mean, as an idea in and of itself. It just doesn't have any merit at all to a modern thinking person. The very idea of accepting a truth defined by people thousands of years ago based on witness testimony that's rather preposterous, you know, great floods and Noah's Arks and all kinds of other crap that we know didn't happen, lies, bullshit, nonsense, rubbish, that isn't much better than attributing things to cartoons. But you see people who will attempt to construct new religions out of the idea of a alien race that built the pyramids, you know, or you know, UFOs. They're always attempting to do that. So there is this other element to it where there's something in people that does require an explanation, and they want one that's, I suppose, it has to fit a certain standard. I mean, it can't be, you know, you're the spawn of absolute shit. Somehow it has to be something better than that. They need it to be. Somehow it's important to their ego that the truth be something more spectacular than, yes, billions of years of evolution, mouth, anus, sexual reproduction, yeah, nothing else really happening. Live, die, live, die, live, die. Change a little bit over time. Have conversations that are basically the same, except you just change, you know, one generation you talk about stagecoaches, and the next generation you talk about cars, or, you know, it's horses. Oh, what a great horse you have, or now it's a great car you have. You know, that kind of bullshit. Yeah, but it's all the same crap. Just playing out the same roles. And you're just like, well, why? How do you fight this? And so, yeah, it's something I think about just because I have to. Because I am, you know, defending a competing idea. And the idea can't happen unless everybody changes their memes. So you have to get this new meme to find some way to make it grow, some way to make it survive in this environment that seems so hostile to any kind of competing idea. Somehow you have to get people to migrate from their rooting for the Yankees to rooting for the Red Sox. How are you going to do that? You know, because they're just so glued to it, so comforted by it, so not even comforted. It's like a superstition. They're afraid to believe something else. It's ingrained in them in their youth that if they reject it, that they've somehow put themselves at jeopardy, and they're afraid of, even though they don't believe in it, they have some notion that if it's true, if it's true, if it's true. And maybe that's all that's needed to keep them in line. It's just some stupid notion in the back of their head that, yeah, they can't step on the crack in the sidewalk because it's bad luck. And that superstition's just going to own them. And because of some mechanism in our psychology that makes us vulnerable to that. Now, why we would be that sticky to ideas, you can sort of understand how we could get into habits of physical habits and find them, you know, pinky out when you drink your tea or some other kind of bullshit. You get into some sort of definition of civilized or definition of manners, comfortable sounds, comfortable sensations, comfortable smells, comfortable ways of being. You can sort of understand how you would physically need to maintain those addictions. But the idea that we are actually addicted to ideas, you know, that's really makes this really tough. Because if it's a real addiction, if people are really addicted to ideas, and that they you know, that it's going to be just as difficult to migrate them as it is to recondition you to like a food you hate or to hate a food you love. If it's that difficult, well, yeah, then we're really in trouble. Because then the only way you change the religion or kill the religion is to maturate people without it. Somehow prevent parents from infecting their children with their ideology. and that's a little harder to do. So, yeah, but there isn't too many examples of, I mean, I guess anything that's comforting, I guess, anything that is controlling, I guess that's the word. Anything that's psychologically controlling would be an example of something that's like religion, because religion is psychologically controlling. It's an idea people just can't let go of. They can't see it for what it is, either because they're too attached to it, too addicted to it, or they retain a fear psychologically. It's a boogeyman. They're afraid of that boogeyman, God, and that there's some possibility that he can get to them and make their life worse. That they're somehow going to commit a trespass against the laws of that superstitious law and jinx themselves. Yeah, it's some sort of jinx theory. So, I don't know if I have to say much more. I mean, it's like the biggest subject is how do people acquire understanding, and it's really an important thing to understand, because I mean I keep arguing that the truth of our existence is pretty simple if you take out all the old babble. So if you just took the facts that we've gleaned in the last 100 years, you know, the scientific facts about how the physics works and how the chemistry works, and the biology, and just go by the geological record, what we've found out about how the Earth works and how the continents have moved, that kind of stuff. You just take the facts and you put those together, it becomes kind of obvious, okay, there's evolution. And over a long, long period of time, this is what took place. One piece of chemistry reproduced 4 billion years ago, and it just continues to reproduce. We are the continuing byproduct of that initiated domino cascade, and it'll keep cascading until we say stop, because it can't stop on its own. And the mechanism of survival is built into this idea of reproduction, and it'll just keep reproducing because that's what it's designed to do, unless some other force outside of natural selection, outside of the design function, has to stop it. An idea has to stop it. I'm just saying, it just seems kind of obvious what's going on here. It's not complicated. It's just a replicating molecule. And it can't do anything but make copies, and all that's competing for is who makes the best copies, who kills the competitors the most efficiently and takes over the most space, or ends up with the most power. I mean, obviously insects like mosquitoes are still doing perfectly well. They still have a kingdom that they're master of. We haven't taken anything away from them. So they you know, but so by the old definition of natural selection, they're still a huge success. We're not dominating them. We're not controlling them. So they still win. But that's just a variation on what win will mean. Win doesn't mean anything beyond just survival, in a sense. That's winning. I mean, it's 4 billion years later. Obviously, all my ancestors survived all the bullshit. Survived it enough to reproduce. So, win. Win what? Yeah, nothing. That's right. Delusions. Yeah, so now we have this complex psychology, a brain that's been complicated by environment, because the environment demanded more from organisms. They had to know what the other guy was going to do and be able to outsmart him and all that crap. That became part of the weaponry. Besides just big teeth or claws or fast legs, you had to have a quick brain, because that was a good weapon. That makes sense, of course. Yeah, that fits the scenario. And we've assumed that that means something special is happening. And all it means is that, oh, we're being controlled by a feeling mechanism that is just doing the same thing. It's pushing us one way or pulling us another. It's making us behave, and fundamentally making us behave in the same manner that things have been behaving for 4 billion years, which is consume and then reproduce. And it's not really smart. And we can now analyze the whole game and say, does the game go anywhere? Does it produce anything except a delusion of accomplishment? So can't we just expel the delusion? Just say we don't need to do things we really don't need to do? Suffering people need comfort. Wanting people who want for, a vision of a future 1,000,000 years from now, if you're wanting for that, you don't really need that. Right? And we can trade that off for the victory of satisfying the need for comfort, the need from relief from suffering. We can prevent suffering, and we don't need to satisfy notions. Then that's all they are, contrived little notions of a silly future where you're going to, play three-dimensional chess. Big deal. So anyway, but the point is yeah, it's just simple. It's simple. The truth is simple, and yet we have all of these philosophy out there in the real world that owns most minds, and it's just a bunch of mush. It's a bunch of just overt nonsense, and it's stunning. You just say, how could that possibly win? How could overt nonsense win? Yeah, it just doesn't make sense, because our brain tends to want. It tends to model the world accurately so we can function in it, so we can understand it. So why would it have this functionality that makes it so breakable? Because of addiction and attachment and superstition. Yeah, that's a good question. I guess it's just the other memers, the other ideas, just haven't been packaged correctly. They just haven't been put in a frame and displayed in such a way as people can understand what it is. That it's not an attack on their heritage or their people or their kind or their parents or even their intelligence. It's just an attack on an old, bad, sad, tragic addiction. And they can just let that go and attempt to deal with the reality, which is sentient life evolved on this planet, not for any good reason, but merely because that was a tool that enabled living things to dispose of other living things and capture more of the sun energy that animated the living things. Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, I didn't say exactly what I wanted to say, but that happens a lot. But the point is yeah, what is religion? It's a bad idea. It's a superstition. It's an addiction. It's a compulsion. I mean, it's just built into the psychology of people. It's not a philosophy. It's a psychology. It probably could be annihilated if it had to earn its way into people's brains. If they were free for their entire maturation, and when they reached the age of 18, somebody introduced them to this idea that there's a phantasmagorical superpower God in a throne and he wants you to kiss his feet and all this kind of bullshit. And maybe at that age people would just be clear enough that you couldn't fool them with such a bad superstition, a bad idea, a silly notion that somehow the cracks in the sidewalk have something to do with your luck. Yeah, don't think so. So, yeah, I guess I depressed myself just talking about it, because you do say, gee, there is a huge, I mean, it is just so stupid, and you're just, when you look at it, you just say, how could people be that stupid? I mean, it really is stupid. I mean, it's not even so stupid that you would fall for it, like in the privacy of your own mind, that you would walk down the sidewalk and step over a crack, but that you would try to sell the idea to somebody else that's the part that's just so creepy. I mean, I can understand if people are, praying in their closets at home, but to do it overtly, like there's something rational in it, that it's something other than just ludicrous, silly, insensible crap. And the only reason why they do that is because that's what all the other sheep are doing, and everybody's just mimicking the sheep. So maybe it's just the mimic thing. Maybe it's just, that's part of all great apes, is they're mimickers. And that's the thing. So until you kill the herd of sheep that's mimicking those words, you can't kill the idea, sadly. The competing sheep have to somehow take over. They have to become dominant somehow before the breeding population will be free of the bad idea. Depressing. So, enough of a video. Thank you very much. So the quality of this will be crap because I'm really going to edit the crap out of it. I'm going to convert the crap out of it. Make it a small enough video to play with and such. I might start doing that for YouTube actually, because YouTube's taking like 3 hours to upload videos. I mean, this is just bullshit and such.